Hey, this is Ish, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to find the perfect balance between introversion and extroversion for yourself. And this involves going out and interacting with the world compared to looking inside and reflecting and doing more introspective activities. So this is a really great tool for you to understand yourself a bit more. And I think nowadays people don't really take conscious control over it. So usually they find their answer from reacting to different events. So maybe they go to an event and they stayed a bit longer, and then they might think to themselves, okay, maybe I'm more introverted than I thought. But in reality, that's usually as far as it gets. So in this talk, I'll be diving through some different ways you can find out what is your perfect sweet spot between introversion and also extroversion. And the answers will actually vary between person to person. So that's what makes this topic really interesting, because no two people are the same. So you might notice someone who is completely on the extroverted side of the spectrum. And this is someone like my mom, for example, who can talk on the phone for like 6 hours at a time and then go out afterwards and feel completely like energized, and then she'll go to one event to the next and be totally fine, just because extroverts' brains are a bit different from introverts, so they kind of need more of that stimulus. Meanwhile, on the other side of the spectrum, I have a cousin who's completely on the introverted side, like way on the introverted side, and he'll play video games or like chill out in his house, and you won't see him for like a month, and you're like, hey, are you okay? Did you leave your room? Are you good? So there's different spectrums. So really, it's all about finding what is the right fit for you, to find out where you fall in that and what you specifically need. Because unless you're like on either end of the spectrum, like the extreme examples, you'll probably fall somewhere like in the middle or towards one side. And it's really about finding what is your perfect balance. So what are some ways we can actually look into this and see what we need? So the first is to basically have a set period of time, and this could be a week or 2 weeks, where you play with extremes. So for example, you'll have 1 week where you completely go to the extroverted side, and you will cram your day in activities. So you'll cram your day with a lot of different activities, and these are social activities where you'll go out and you'll have different stimulus. So this could be going to one event and then going to the next one, and then basically booking your day so you're always out interacting with people. And this doesn't have to mean just socially, although it can mean that obviously, but it can also mean as far as like the stimulus. So putting up like loud music, and you have lights, and you're basically amplifying all the stimulus in the room. And this will basically put you to the extroverted side, where you're taking in a lot of more things and sensory input from the environment. So the experiment here is to fit your week in all these extroverted activities, just to push yourself to see how much of it you actually like. And the reason why we play with the extremes is that the contrast is our friend. So we can first use the extreme of going all the way to the extroverted side to see how much we can push ourselves to see how much of it we like, and what aspects of extroversion do we actually like. And because you'll find that it's very energizing, and it actually allows you to clear up some energy. So it's very beneficial, and you can find out where you fall there. And then the next week, you do the opposite. So you go into full hermit mode, as I like to say. And this is where you can take up meditation, and you just take some time, don't distract yourself. So essentially what you've done is now cut off all the stimulus and go the opposite way. So instead of putting up lights and music and all these like sensory stimulus, you'll actually tune that out. And when you tune that out, you'll have less stimulus coming to your brain. And now you can see how much of this can you actually thrive on. So you'll find that this is a different outlook, different mode of energy. And instead of being energizing, this will be more reflective. And this is something you'll actually have to discover for yourself, as far as how much of each you like, because you'll find that if you spend too much time in the extroverted side, although you'll feel energized, you can also feel very burnt out and very stressed out, and you're like, oh, this is too much. And on the other side, if you know that you're a bit more extroverted and you spend too much on the introverted side, although you may feel very calm and peaceful, you can also feel lethargic, and you're like feel very like anxious. You want to do something, you want to get up, you want to do something, right? So it's really up to you to find out basically how much of each you can take. And then from there, the second step is to funnel down on the things you actually liked about each extroverted or introvert activity, or both, and try to do that more. So let's just say you spent a week rather, exploring all these different extrovert activities. And maybe there are, out of all that, you have figured out you like maybe 2 or 3 of those activities. So out of everything you've done, you liked hanging out with friends, Maybe you'll say like 5 or 6 friends max. That's something you liked. And then maybe you also liked, let's just say, going to a restaurant every day of the week or once a week, for example. So those are your 2 examples. And then for the introverted side, you really like meditation, but you didn't really like journaling as much, but maybe you also liked just sitting back and watching TV. So now you have 2 of each things, right? Now, the second step is to take those things that you whittled down and funnel down from both the introverted and extroverted side, and then start to extend that. So for the extrovert example, now you will take going to the restaurant, for example, or hanging out with those friends, and try to meet up with them a bit more. See if you actually like that as much as you think you did. Same side, on the introversion side. For, let's just say meditation, instead of meditating for just like half an hour, try to meditate for like 3 hours a day. See if that is now your sweet spot. And you're trying to extend those activities. Maybe watching TV, instead of like 20 minutes, you do an hour. And then, so you're basically, what you're doing is piecing together a perfect or ideal life where you're balancing both introversion and extroversion, but still in the stage, you're still experimenting with how much of each do you like. And when you start to extend both, from both the introversion and extroversion side, you'll start to have a clearer picture of which one you start to lean towards more of. So when I did this personally, when I did this little experiment, I found that I was actually more extroverted than I thought I was, because I was, I'm really into meditation and all that, because I actually do like to go out and, interact with people. But I also found myself really being able to meditate for long periods of time. So that's kind of interesting, right? So I know that I don't fall completely on the introverted side, but I don't fall completely on the extroverted side. I'm somewhere closer towards the introverted side for sure. Definitely on the introverted side, but I'm not as introverted as I initially thought I was. And the reason why is that I took the same principles that I just told you about. And what I found was I definitely enjoyed hanging out with friends almost every day. So some kind of social interaction every day is a must for me. Whereas I know some people that, if they don't, they can hang out with one person like once a month and they'll be good. For me, it's at least someone I need to be hanging out with or talking to at least once a day. And then what I also found out was I definitely like meditation. That's something I can do for a few hours. But when I did that extreme example, I found that I wasn't a big fan of meditating for like 12 hours a day. And I know some monks are able to do that, and I have done that as part of this experiment and also prior to. But I kind of got that antsy feeling towards the end of the 10 hours. I was like, get me out of here. I need to like go out, do something, move. So that's how I know that I need a bit more stimulation. Because in meditation, you're actually kind of like shutting all those, those parts down and get very introspective. So I kind of needed a bit more, but it's not quite as much as like going to a club. So it's like, it's a bit more than I thought it was, but not as much as like being super extroverted. So it's through this process that I found out what my ideal sweet spot is. So, being able to go out, meet up with friends, but also remaining introverted for most of the day. And when you try this experiment out, you'll notice you'll be surprised at the results. You'll see, unless you fall like way on the extroverted side or way on the introverted side, as far as the spectrum, as far as like needing constant stimulation like all the time, or needing all like solitude all the time, you'll be surprised to learn a bit more about yourself in terms of what you can push yourself to, what you might actually like, because you're doing the extremes first, and then kind of whittle it down to find your perfect and ideal scenario where you find the healthy balance of both introversion and extroversion. So just a really quick recap of this talk. In order to find your perfect balance or sweet spot, you first play with extremes. So see where you spend like 1 week or whatever period of time doing completely all things extroverted, and then and stimulus inducing, and then set up some time doing completely introverted activities where it's less stimulation, more looking inwards. And then from there, find those activities that you liked in both categories, and then extend that a bit more. So just do those couple of activities on each side. And then from there, you'll be able to construct a perfect life for yourself to see what you might like. Anyways, I hope this talk helps and you found this useful. Thank you.